Hello and welcome to Imola for round 3 of the Formula One World Championship, the San Marino Grand Prix, the start of the European season, and for many people, the place where the season really starts. I'm Matthew Lorenzo, with me John Watson, and behind us, the place where Gerhard Berger had a catastrophic accident this time last year.
Yes, Matt, this is the famous Tamburello corner. It's a curve more than a corner. It's flat out, 170, 175 miles an hour, and last year Gerhard Berger had, I would say, the biggest fright of his life, and probably a lot of other drivers around him at the time. Luckily, he survived it. He's racing here this weekend, and he's going to be very competitive.
What are your thoughts on this year's race?
Well, as you said, really, Imola is the start of the World Championship, and I think that the first two races, Phoenix and Brazil, were really just sort of an appetizer, and we've had 7 weeks, in fact, since Brazil. The teams have been here on 3 separate occasions testing. They've all got the 1990 specification car, which means more room for the driver, there's more room for the legs to come back in the event of a front shunt, bigger cockpit areas, stronger rollover hoops behind the driver's head in case the car turns upside down, and really, most importantly of all, the fuel cell in which the fuel is contained has now got to be almost double the strength that it was last year. So what we saw last year, Berger's car catching fire after that huge shunt, hopefully we won't ever see again in the future.
I echo those sentiments. Thanks, John. Well, Eurosport will be at every Grand Prix this season. Our extensive coverage includes both major practice sessions and the live build-up to the big race. This is how the action is coming to you this weekend. In this programme, highlights of the first qualifying session, plus all the news from trackside here at Imola. On Saturday at 9:30 in Europe, 8:30 in the UK, you'll be able to catch up with the latest developments and all the on-track action as the drivers battle it out for pole position. On Sunday, join us at 2 o'clock in Europe, 1 o'clock in the UK for the build-up to the big race, which starts half an hour later. The entire race live on Eurosport. And don't forget, on Tuesday night, highlights of the whole weekend, plus all the post-race stories. Well, here in San Marino, or as most people would say, Italy, there's always a buzz about this race. This, after all, is Ferrari's home track, and the Tifosi have been queuing since the early hours to get into the circuit. No doubts about who the local heroes are, even though one is English, the other French. Most of these fans are here for the weekend. The area inside the circuit are massive tents and makeshift homes, and to keep them happy, all sorts of food is available, and there's an exotic range of motor racing paraphernalia. Now here's John to take us round the circuit.
And the Nini and the Benetton is going to take us round that lap as we go across the start-finish line, taking 6th gear, and we're approaching the Tamburello corner, the famous corner from last year and Berger's accident. This is flat out 6th gear, 175 miles an hour, and the cars will build up speed to about 185 through the Villeneuve curve, and then hard on the brakes, a favourite overtaking spot, down into 3rd gear, turning in, getting the power on, careful not to get too much on, then back into 4th gear, accelerating flat out up the hill into 5th, under the bridge, and then into the double left Piratella, a very tricky corner because the road falls away from you and it's easy to run wide. Then up into 5th gear, then hard on the brakes for the chicane, back into 3rd gear, and this then leads into the double right-hand uphill Acqua Minerale corner, a famous corner on this Imola circuit. Then back into 5th gear and another short straight before again another hard braking into the high chicane. 2nd gear, tight right-left, up to 3rd, 4th, the hand hardly leaves the gear lever at this point, into 5th gear, and accelerating now down under another bridge which leads into the double left-hand Ravazza corners, the first part in 3rd gear, then back into 4th, short shifting, not using full revs, keeping the power on and building up speed now as we come out of the 2nd part, up to the Marlborough chicane. The first part's taken in 5th gear, it's very fast, but now again heavy braking and down to 2nd gear for the 2nd part, and this leads us on to the start-finish line. Now we're behind, I think it's one of the Delaras, I don't know who's driving it, but we're going to watch Nannini. He's catching up to the Delara, but he can't really pass at this point on the circuit. He's got to wait until he exits the corner, but he wants to get himself into the right position to make that passing maneuver, pulling out to the left. But what's he doing? I don't know what he's doing, but he's having one of the biggest accidents I think Nannini's ever had. That was very strange. He came up, pulled out to the left to pass the Delara. He started to look across. He looked across twice, and as he looked across, he seemed to turn left. He put the car. He was looking for more track, in fact, than there was, and as a consequence, he got onto the grass. The car went out of control, and it just started to attack the concrete barriers all the way down the left-hand side of the track, and he's got a very, very sad-looking Benetton. In fact, that car, I don't think is going to be running again at any part of this. In fact, probably not for the whole weekend.
Let's have a look at the championship positions so far. No real surprise about the man in the lead, Ayrton Senna, with 13 points. His erstwhile teammate Alain Prost is second with 9 points in the Ferrari. And then three tie for third. Gerhard Berger in the McLaren, Jean Alesi, the dynamic young Frenchman, in the Tyrrell, and Thierry Boutsen in the Williams, all three sharing 6 points. Sixth is Nelson Piquet in the Benetton, seventh Nigel Mansell in the other Ferrari, then comes Stefano Modena in the Brabham, and finally Satoru Nakajima in the other Tyrrell. In the Constructors' Championship, McLaren Honda have the lead with 19 points. 7 points behind them come Ferrari, and third Tyrrell DFR with 7. Williams are fourth with 6, Benetton fourth, fifth with 4, and finally Brabham Judd in 6th position. It's been 7 weeks since Brazil and the last Grand Prix, and since there's been plenty of off-track action, not to mention a few driver changes. Let's now meet the new drivers as they come up to the grid here at Imola. Here's Andrew Marriott.
So, as the Grand Prix season moves to Europe, let's recap on the runners and riders, and already there are some new faces. But this is not a new face. World champion Alain Prost has already taken the #1 Ferrari to victory in Brazil. Prost, after all those years in McLaren, has settled easily into the Ferrari team. Running at #2, Nigel Mansell, Britain's top hope. Nigel's season so far has been a little frustrating. 3 points from Brazil, scant reward for 2 hard drives. Now with Tyrrell, Satoru Nakajima of Japan. The former Lotus driver carries #3 and was in the points at Phoenix. But it was his teammate Jean Alesi who has proved the sensation of the season so far. He led at Phoenix and eventually finished second. And now he has the radical new Tyrrell, which has been impressive in testing, but still relies on venerable Cosworth horsepower. Carrying #5, Belgian's Thierry Boutsen, a twice winner in the rain last season and a certain front-runner here. His teammate in an unchanged Williams squad, Grand Prix's most experienced driver, Riccardo Patrese. Here's a brand new face at Formula One. Appropriately at Brabham, it's British Formula 3 champion David Brabham, who takes over the #7 car from Gregor Wojtek. His teammate, birthday boy Stefano Modena, who hails from nearby Modena. He's 27 this weekend. Brabham, now owned by the Japanese Middlebridge Group, have a new car here, the stylish BT59 with Judd power, but Yamaha beckons. At #9, it's Michele Alboreto in the Footwork Arrows. Looking forward to Porsche power soon, and a newcomer at Arrows, Alex Caffey, now fully recovered from his pre-season injury. The Arrows team are another to benefit from a Japanese takeover. Delivery giant Footwork are now in charge, but Jackie Oliver and Alan Rees continue to operate the team. Lamborghini-powered Lotus have an all-British lineup, #11, Derek Warwick, and in the #12 car, it's Martin Donnelly. Running at 14 is the lone Ocella of Oliver Griard from the south of France. He has to pre-qualify this season, and with Cosworth power, that could be quite difficult. Here's a team with mountains to climb, Leighton House. In the 15 car, it's Mauricio Gugelmin of Brazil. In the 16 car, Ivan Capelli of Italy. Both cars failed to qualify in Brazil, but they're hoping for better things here at Imola. At 17, it's Gabriele Tarquini of Italy. At 18, Yannick Dalmas of France. AGF have a new factory, a new sponsor, new management, and a new car this year. Benetton are looking very good this season. In the #19 car, it's Sandro Nannini, and at #20, confounding his critics, Nelson Piquet, in the points in Phoenix and Brazil. Indeed, the 3 times champion could well return to the victory rostrum this season. At 21, it's Emanuele Pirro, and at 22, Andrea De Cesaris. The pair drive the Dallara Cosworths, who could surprise on the slower circuits. Minardi looked very good at Phoenix. Pierluigi Martini is at #23, with fellow Italian Paolo Barilla at 24. Nicola Lorini, ex of Ocella, is now with Ligier Judd. His teammate at #26, the spectacular Philippe Alliot. Ligier seem to be getting their act together, but Alliot's crashes don't help. Winner in Phoenix, Ayrton Senna, nearly made it 2 in a row in Brazil, but then tripped over Satoru Nakajima. Looking for his Imola hat-trick, it's Senna at 27. Number 28 is Gerhard Berger, new to the McLaren team, and 2 fastest laps and second place in Brazil are already under his belt. Senna and Berger have set up a good working relationship at the McLaren team. The latest Marlboro McLaren Honda V10 is probably the most powerful car on the track, but a V12 engine is on the way. Still, definitely the team to beat. Talented Eric Bernard at number 29 has to pre-qualify the Lola LaRousse. So does number 30, that's Aguri Suzuki. The little Coloni squad with Subaru backing fall into the optimistic rather than serious category. Bertrand Gachot is the man who has to attempt to qualify the Coloni. Eurobun's Roberto Moreno runs 33 and is another who has to pre-qualify, but he made the show in Phoenix. But his teammate Claudio Langes has so far failed to make the cut. Now at number 35, after 2 races with Brabham, is Swiss Gregor Wojtek, now with the Onyx team. His teammate, the talented Finn JJ Leto. And that team has been taken over by the Swiss car constructor Monteverdi. But there are problems on the horizon. Stefan Johansson is suing them, and their designer has also left the team. Finally, and it's no more than a joke, is the brave but misguided life car with W12 engine. Gary Brabham has given up the unequal struggle, and now Bruno Giacomelli, after 6 years away from Formula One, takes over the number 39 car. But will it ever race? The biggest pre-Imola story, perhaps, was the news that David Brabham had joined Brabham. Matthew Lorenzo asked him how he was settling in.
Well, I've had 3 days here in Imola, getting accustomed to everything. I did about probably 3 Grand Prix distances in 3 days, so I've done a lot of miles and learning much more than I've ever learnt. Looking forward to the weekend.
You've had time to assess the difference now. What would you say is the difference between Formula 3 and Formula 1?
The grip and the brakes. The brakes are braking later than a Formula 3 car, and everything happens so quickly that you don't get time to do everything you used to do. It's got to be much quicker. That takes a bit of time to get used to, so that's what I'm working on.
Despite the time you've had in the Brabham, there is a new Brabham to debut at Imola. How do you feel about that? Because you haven't actually driven it yet.
No, well, I've done 1 lap and we had a misfire, and then I had to jump back into the 58 to do some more miles. The cars haven't turned a wheel yet, but we think it's going to be okay. The car's lighter and it's got more horsepower, so hopefully it'll be a bit quicker.
Realistically, what are your ambitions for Imola?
I'd like to try and qualify first. Hopefully we can run quite smoothly with the new cars. Obviously, if we have problems, it's not going to look too good, but I'm fairly confident the cars will run well, and hopefully I get a good enough lap to qualify, and then hopefully finish the race.
Good luck.
Thanks.
The one thing David Brabham didn't have to worry about, of course, was pre-qualifying. Let's just look at the times now on that early Friday morning session. Eric Bernard and Aguri Suzuki at the top of the list with the LaRousse Lamborghinis. Third was Oliver Drouillard in the Osella, and fourth, the final man to make the cut, Roberto Moreno in the Eurobahn. Bertrand Gachot didn't get in, neither did Claudio Langes, and Bruno Giacomelli, he only did a lap in the life. Also failing to make the cut, the 2 AGSs. Yannick Dalmas, with a damaged wrist, failed to show up, while Gabriel Tarquini failed to do a flying lap. An unhappy day for AGS.
Coming up, highlights of the first time practice session. Join us again in a couple of moments. Imola and Eurosport's coverage of the San Marino Grand Prix. Let's straight away join Andrew Marriott and John Watson for coverage of the first time practice session.
Well, thanks, Matthew. Now another group of cars going out for qualifying, well into the session now. And yes, it's Martin Donnelly, fellow Ulsterman, John Watson with me, of course. John, may you just take us round a lap with Martin?
Yes, well, Martin's just gone across the start-finish line and into the infamous Tamburello curve, this wonderfully long and flat-out 6th gear corner, 175 miles an hour. And coming down to one of the main overtaking points in the circuit, the Tossa hairpin bend, 2nd gear, all the way from 6th into 2nd, getting back on the par, taking 3rd quickly to try and avoid wheel spin. 4th gear, 5th gear, as he approaches the Piratella corner, this double left-hand corner that leads downhill again to the equally notorious Acqua Minerale. It's now a chicane, right, then left, and then actually into the Acqua Minerale itself, this double right-hand corner, uphill, running a little bit wide, getting the tail onto the rumble strips, back into 5th gear, coming up to what they call the high chicane, literal translation. 2nd gear, again, gentle on the par, back into 3rd, 4th, 5th gear, and if he's up at this point in the circuit, just on the minute, he would be on a very quick lap. Now into the Ravazza, back into 3rd gear, 4th gear before the second part of the Ravazza, and then accelerating hard again up into 5th, and almost coming up to the completion of his qualifying lap into the Marlborough chicane, the second part of it.
John, those brake ducts shaking around a lot.
Well, it is a Lotus, Andrew, but probably they shouldn't shake that much.
Just coming up with the computer. His time, we've got it, 1 minute 27.1, and Martin goes 7th for now. Now it's Nigel Mansell out there. A lot of pressure on Nigel this weekend. A few sparks from the back of the car. And the circuit, of course, pretty close to the home of Ferrari. And the circuit itself named after Enzo and Dino Ferrari. Nigel had that cracked wrist since the last race. But it seems to be well healed, John.
Yes, well, he's been out playing quite a lot of golf, and he can play golf, he can drive a racing car, and it's an important race for Nigel because of all the pressure he's been getting since the Brazil Grand Prix. The Italian press have been giving him.
Look at that time, John. Mansell goes second. Mansell goes second now. So a quick time from him.
Well, that's what he needed for this practice session, to be at the top of the lists, and he'll feel much happier now as a result of that quick lap.
Well, we've already seen Senna out once. He'll be going for a quick one fairly soon, I would suggest.
I wonder, are we going to see the customary Senna performance, going out almost cold and laying down one of those unbelievably fast qualifying laps. He's got over 40 of them now in his relatively short Grand Prix career, and it's really quite staggering that the guy still can get into the car, go out and perform miracles, and he's amazing.
Well, there he is on the way back to the pits. And this morning I saw a van driving in from Ferrari. It's probably got the super-duper qualifying engine, which they only finished tuning last night, John.
Well, of course, being in pole position at Imola is vitally important for Ferrari. Imola is in the backyard, and anything that helps them get onto the front row or pole position is going to be a big bonus.
They see Senna's already done the 24.4, and Mansell definitely in the ballpark. And now Alessandro Nannini, who had quite a big shunt this morning in practice. And there's the winner of the previous Grand Prix, Alain Prost, going out to attempt a quick lap in his Ferrari.
Alain Prost is not only the master of the racetrack, he's the master of the Italian language, which has been a big problem for Nigel recently.
And Gerhard Berger now looks as if he's on a quick one, starting a quick one, I think, John.
Yes, he came out of the corner very quickly and trying to get that Japanese horsepower down to the ground as quickly as he can. The car fidgeting a little bit coming out of the chicane, but that's normal when a car is on a very quick lap.
It's just gone past the point where he crashed, and he's certainly attacking there.
His confidence is actually gaining every time he gets in the car. You know, being a part of McLaren is quite a different team to being part of Ferrari, and learning McLaren's way of doing things is something that comes with the job, and he now appears to be settling into the team. They've made the car more comfortable for him to drive. The problem of cramp is something they're overcoming. And there's a yellow flag now. Why is that being waved?
Doesn't seem to have slowed him up much.
No, he hasn't, and normally you are meant to respect that flag when it's waved at you. There was a car parked in the inside of the corner, so it was probably just to warn you that there was a parked car, but it was well off the track.
Yeah, Gerhard, of course, has already had 2 fastest laps so far this season in the races. Of course, we saw him crash out at Phoenix. He admits that was his own mistake. And he had a very good race, 2nd place in Brazil. And he's certainly keeping Ayrton Senna honest, no question doubt about that, as he just throws up a puff of dust as he comes out of that one. And it looks like a quick one to me.
Yes, it is. He's made best use of his qualifying tyres. Goodyear have got new qualifying tyres here. They're much better than the previous tyres they had, and I think that's helped both Berger and McLaren a great deal today.
On the Longines monitor, Berger goes fastest. Berger's fastest, 1 minute 24.173. Gerhard Berger on the pole. Well, what's Alan Prost going to think about that? What's Ayrton Senna going to think about it? Riccardo Patrese, he's another man who went well in practice this morning. The Williams team may have some late revisions to the car. They're even testing on Wednesday at Donington, on Thursday at Donington.
Indeed, in fact, I saw the truck. I was leaving Silverstone, and as I left the circuit, I saw their truck going to Donington. So that just shows you the pressure that is in Formula One today, that teams are prepared to go testing on the day when they're really meant to be at the racetrack they're competing at. So those very last-minute revisions to the Williams car are paying penalties, paying bonuses. So Patrese is also taking advantage of that.
And also that latest RS02 Renault engine, that superb V10. They've upgraded it since Brazil, and it's meant to have more power, and it is definitely one of the most powerful engines. And there Patrese, the most experienced man in Grand Prix racing, still enjoying his racing, indeed enjoying it more than ever. The Patrick Head designed Williams FW13, no superstitions for the Didcot team. Into the final chicane, let's see what sort of time he gets. 1 minute 24.4, third fastest. Patrese goes third.
That's a good time, a very good time indeed for the Williams and Patrese.
Nigel Mansell out again on his second set of qualifiers, I think, John.
Yes, he's had a frustrating practice really so far. Although he was second quickest early on, he's been balked a couple of times, so now he's really trying to make the best of these qualifying tyres. They're good for about 1 lap, maybe 1.5 laps, but really that's it if you get caught.
He is being caught.
Yes, he is.
Yes, he's caught behind Oliver Gruillard. Oh, he's not happy about that, is he?
No, well, that gesture he's made is fairly familiar amongst racing drivers.
Shaking his fist.
Well, I think that's what it was, yes. He's not a happy boy, and entitled to be so. Gruillard, I think, was sleeping. He really should have been more aware of Mansell approaching him.
Well, they're showing us again. John, take us through it.
Well, Gruillard just didn't see Mansell behind him, and of course he's just cruising. He's Sunday afternoon drive. I mean, he could have had the wife and kids with him, the speed he was going at. And that's really irresponsible, I believe, on Gruillard's part.
Yeah, the man from the south of France. Oh, look at that, big shunt for Martini. He looks all right, he's certainly moving in the car. Look at the front of the car.
That's a bad accident. The front of the car actually, well, in fact, the car in front of the dashboard has been torn off. He's hit that tyre barrier very, very hard indeed. You can see...
Trapped by his legs, I think.
Yes, I would think. Let's have a look at it and see. We've got a slow motion replay of the incident. He's turning in. This is the Acqua Minerale corner, the second part of it. He's got a lot of understeer. The front of the car is pushing. It's not gripping. And he's really run wide. He's missed the second part, the apex of that second part of the corner. And you can see his hands are getting crossed over, so the back of the car is now slid wide. A lot of dust, and we're getting some, see the tyre smoke, the whiff of tyre smoke from the front wheels.
He's doing something with his hand.
Yes, he's taken his left hand off the steering wheel. That's oh, bang! That was a heavy, heavy impact. That was very heavy indeed.
They've got truck tyres there. Usually they protect the Armco with car tyres. They're using truck tyres.
Yeah, but that's almost, I would say, too solid a tyre wall. You want those tyres to absorb impact. That's like hitting something solid. But fortunately, we've seen Pierluigi Martini moving.
He's throwing up his hand saying, please come and help me.
Yeah, but the front of the car is very severely damaged indeed. And in fact, what makes you wonder, the new regulations are designed to save drivers, but the front of his car has literally been ripped off.
Well, there he's on the stretcher. They've got the drip in, but that's a fairly standard practice these days. Just stabilising him out of the car reasonably quickly, and he's raising his head there.
Yes, he's lucid, and basically he seems to have movement of all his limbs. It was just that the front impact of the car had pushed it 90 degrees to the straight ahead, so his legs were somewhere in that. But luckily, Martini's a very short driver. You can see how much of the front of the car has been chopped off. And in fact, the nose of the car, the part of the car that hit the barrier, is relatively undamaged. So the new regulations while they've served a point, have actually transferred the weakest part of the chassis to being the part that's broken away, which is just in front of the dashboard.
Well, practice restarted, and it's that man Senna out. Ayrton Senna definitely on a quick one here. The shrill Honda V10 screaming behind his ears. The circuit really plunges down. The TV cameras don't show it that well, but it really goes down steeply in that spot.
Yes, I think it's a great racetrack because it's got elevation. It's almost like a road track. It is an artificial circuit, but they've managed to combine the landscape of the Imola track very, very well indeed. And it does, I think, provide a very enjoyable circuit for the Grand Prix drivers.
Well, we'll be watching to see what time Senna does. These times come up so quickly these days. 1 minute 24.080. Senna's on the pole. Senna is on the pole. But Gerhard Berger, he's been on a quick lap too. And Berger snatched it from Ayrton Senna. Gerhard Berger with a 1:24.027 has snatched pole position from his teammate. But Nigel Mansell, what's happened to him? He's walking back. Been a torrid practice for him.
Yes, he doesn't look too happy, but Nigel's got that look on his face, and here we're going to see what's happened.
That's Barilla spinning off.
Barilla and the other Martini.
He's going to get Mansell. Oh, so close, and he just misses the front end of Mansell. Mansell read that well, John.
Yes, and it's not a Martini he's in, it's a Minardi he's in, of course. That was very lucky for Mansell. In fact, I think he must have seen Barilla coming across because he actually took avoiding action, drove onto the grass. So well done, Nigel. But of course, that's the reason why we saw him out of the car walking back to the pits.
So let's look at the final times. Gerhard Berger fastest, 1:24.027. Senna second, 24.079. Then it's Patrese and Mansell, Boutsen and Prost, Alesi in 7th place, Nelson Piquet in 8th. Then still in 9th place, but he won't be racing, of course, Pierluigi Martini. And the big news is that he has only chipped a bone in his ankle. He may even be back in time for Monaco. Rounding out the top 10, Alessandro Nannini. Good time from Martin Donnelly in his first season, remember. Martin Donnelly, 12th fastest. Derek Warwick, he's in 19th place. And then David Brabham, all kinds of problems with the new Brabham judge. He's back in 30th position. So Matthew Lorenzo, myself, Andrew Marriott, and of course John Watson, it's goodbye. Join us for final qualifying.
Hello and welcome to day 2 of Eurosport's unique coverage of the 3rd round of the Formula One World Championship, the San Marino Grand Prix. Ahead of us, the final period of official practice on our build-up to the big race. I say practice, but the spectator areas here are almost packed to capacity. Motor racing, in particular Ferrari racing, is almost a religion to these people, and their enthusiasm adds another element to a unique atmosphere at this, the first race of the European season. With me is John Watson. John, what were your impressions of the first day?
Matt, I think there were 3 things stood out. First was Gerhard Berger out-Sennaing Ayrton Senna to take provisional pole position. Riccardo Patrese in the Williams, and that car now really looks very competitive indeed. And finally, Martin Donnelly, a superb 12th place in the Lotus Lamborghini.
Well, coming up, we have the battle for pole position and all the news from the pit lane. And joining us later will be Dr. Harvey Postlethwaite, designer of the sensational-looking new Tyrrell, on the effects of aerodynamics on the new Formula One cars. But first, here's Andrew with the highlights of the first day.
Thanks, Matthew. Yes, day 1 saw the Imola track near Bologna absolutely buzzing with anticipation. The fans may have been cheering for Ferrari, but it was McLaren who set the pace. Ayrton Senna has made pole position its own domain here over the past few years, but Gerhard Berger had other ideas. He stormed round in a blistering 1:24.027, a staggering 2 seconds under last year's pole-setting time to snatch the #1 spot from Senna by fractions. For Ferrari, in front of a partisan home crowd, it was a less happy day. Alain Prost could only manage 4th fastest, while Nigel Mansell had a very torrid time. While on his quick lap, this happened. Out of the corner of his eye, he spotted Paolo Barilla's Minardi charging across the grass with the Ferrari as his target. Only split-second reactions on Nigel's behalf prevented a major disaster. Barilla got away with that, but his teammate, local man Pierluigi Martini, was less fortunate. He lost control at the Acqua Minerale and slammed into the tyre wall. The front of the car was viciously severed from the machine, but Martini, amazingly, escaped with no more than a chipped ankle. He hopes to return to racing at Monaco. He wasn't the only one to collide with the scenery. Take a wild ride now with Alessandro Nannini as he passes De Cesaris and loses it. Nannini was uninjured in that incident. A happier time for Williams, though. They go into the final qualifying session with Patrese third and Boutsen fifth, and will look to keep the McLarens honest.
Well, car design is very much on people's minds here at Imola with the new 1990 regulations coming into force. Of all the cars making their debuts at the San Marino Grand Prix, perhaps the most spectacular is the Tyrrell with its flying front wing. Earlier, Andrew Marriott spoke to the car's creator, Dr. Harvey Postlethwaite.
Well, Harvey Postlethwaite, you're responsible for the most incredible new shape in Formula One, this dihedral wing, do you call it?
Well, it's either dihedral or anhedral. It depends which way you think it's pushing. But yes, I think we would call it dihedral.
And what's this wing actually do?
Well, it's not just the wing, Andy. It's really the whole car, because if you look back, you'll see the whole of the front of the monocoque is raised up as if to invite air to pass underneath the car, which is somewhat different to the normal racing car, where the nose would seem to want to tip air over the top of the car. And by getting the air to go underneath and to flow round and under the side pods, making that air go very fast, we can create a much greater suction and sucking the car onto the ground and therefore make it go around the corners quicker.
This whole idea of aerodynamics really has only been developed in the last 20 years. And just explain how it came about and what these wings, we've got a rear wing down here at our feet.
Yes.
We'll take a look at that in a second. How did the principle start?
Well, really, I think you said 20 years. I mean, yes, aerodynamics will always be around. You can't make the air go away. But the realization that if you could push the car harder onto the ground, and that coupled with these great big black sticky tires that we use, if you can make the car go around all the corners very quickly by sucking it and pushing it down onto the ground, then your gain in terms of lap time is much, much greater than just making it go quickly down the straights. But I think the other area where in the last couple of years, we've seen a big, big improvement is also understanding and simulating this so accurately in wind tunnels that we can also predict how the car will handle. Now, it's one thing to give it a very good envelope of performance, but it's another thing within that envelope to make it handle just the way the driver wants it to. And it's really the very sophisticated use of wind tunnels that's enabled us to make a car which really works when first time you put it on the track.
Are they similar wing sections to an aircraft?
Well, they were. When I say they were, the first wings that we designed to put on racing cars were all developed from the landing configuration of aircraft wings. But we now really, I think, have gone way beyond that. This wing, if I can show you this wing in a little more detail, this is a three-element wing. Sits on the back of the car, and it's designed not only to push the car onto the ground, but it's also designed so that the interaction between the three elements helps to pull air out from underneath the car, and this again helps to create this famous ground effect. I think one of the most interesting facts about the amount of downforce we can produce on these cars, to give your listeners or your viewers some idea of just how big it is that our next race is at Monte Carlo. Well, if you thought of a Formula One car going through the tunnel at Monte Carlo, as it went through the tunnel, if it were possible, it could actually go through on the roof, because there is so much downforce pushing it down that if it actually turned upside down, that equivalent force upwards would actually make it stick to the roof as it went through the tunnel. In other words, it's greater than the weight of the car at that speed.
Obviously, you've got all this downforce. That must affect the speed on the straight. It's all a big compromise, presumably.
Yes, it is. Obviously, where there aren't long straights, we will run what we call less wing, less downforce. Circuits like Monte Carlo, we'd run the very biggest wings we can put on the car because we need all the downforce we can get to go around all those little corners. The problems arise when we come to a circuit like Imola, where there aren't very many fast corners. Quite a lot of the corners here are slow, but there is one very long straight. Now that becomes very, very difficult to find the right compromise, and it's something we pay quite a lot of attention to in the day's testing that we've been doing here before the Grand Prix.
Obviously, this rear wing is a vital component. Once in a while they do fall off. What happens then?
Well, clearly we try and avoid that circumstance as hard as we can, because it can end up in a very, very severe accident. The stability of the car is immediately affected adversely, and the car, even on the straight, is almost certain to go out of control.
Now, you're one of these technical boffins that's really spoiling motor racing, because these things don't slide about anymore. If you had a completely free hand and wanted to design a racing car that was exciting to watch for the spectators, would you do it all differently?
Absolutely not. To me, these are absolutely superb, functional the way they are, and I think the racing of these cars provides the best spectacle in the world.
In a moment, we'll be able to take a look at how the final practice session finished up. But first of all, let's have a look at how on-time practice went earlier this morning. Fastest was Riccardo Patrese in the Williams. He was just ahead of Ayrton Senna in the McLaren, and third, a terrific drive from Jean Alesi in the new Tyrrell. Thierry Boutsen took fourth place for Williams. Gerhard Berger was fifth in the Marlboro McLaren. Nigel Mansell was sixth fastest in the Ferrari, ahead of Alessandro Nannini in the Benetton Ford. Alain Prost is in eighth place, Nelson Piquet ninth, and finally Derek Warwick 10th in the new Lotus. Well, now we're all set for the final qualifying session. Join us in a couple of moments when we find out who'll take pole position for the San Marino Grand Prix. Welcome back to Imola, where the final qualifying session has already started, so let's get straight out to the action on the track with John Watson and Andrew Marriott.
Yes, thank you, Matthew. Jean Alesi now out on his qualifying run. The talented Frenchman has moved back to his native Avignon from Oxford, where he lived for the last couple of years. And this looks like a quick lap. John Watson, is he on the qualifiers?
Yes, indeed he is. He's got two sets of qualifiers, and he's going to go out and try and make the best use of those tyres. Qualifying tyres really are only good for about one fast lap. At the end of the day, you can combine the two sets and maybe make a third run. But generally speaking, by the time the tyres have had a run, they're more or less finished.
What do you make of that new wing that we saw Harvey Postlethwaite talking about, that new dihedral front wing, they call it? I think when we first saw it in the press when the car was announced, John, we thought it wouldn't stay on the car for this race, but it really is working as he goes through the chicane there.
Yes, it does work. In fact, I thought it was an April Fool's joke rather late in April, but it's so different to anything else we've seen on a racing car. And for Tyrrell to come out with something really revolutionary like this at this particular part of the year really did catch people off guard.
Well, of course, we saw the six-wheel Tyrrell, but that was a very long time ago. Now that plunging downhill section, and what a vast crowd here today for qualifying. The place is absolutely packed, and as this guy's parents were Italian, maybe they're going to adopt him.
Well, I think so, and Alesi is a pretty Italian name, and although he is French by birth, he looks sort of Italian. He's got that sort of swarthy look about him, and the Italian race fans love racing drivers who drive racing cars aggressively, and Jean Alesi has got that form of controlled aggression that really makes him extremely exciting.
Let's look at his time, 1:25.230. Jean Alesi goes fifth. Fifth for Alesi. Good show from him.
In fact, the time's a little bit slower than he did 2 weeks ago in testing, but on the day, it's good enough.
Now Gerhard Berger on the provisional pole. He'll be battling hard to stay ahead, of course, of his teammate Ayrton Senna. Ayrton Senna has been on the pole for the San Marino Grand Prix for the past 3 years. Is he going to get knocked off it? Currently, this man is in front of him by just a fraction. Just take us through the lap. Driving cleanly, John.
Yes, he is. He was always up the curb. He has been sliding up the curbs a little bit on this lap, but generally speaking, it's not been too bad. Having Ayrton Senna as your teammate does give you something to go for, and Berger has responded very well to the change of team. McLaren being quite a different home for him than that of Ferrari for the last 3 seasons.
Yeah, there he is. See the Austrian colours on the side of his helmet as he kicks up a little bit of dust, using all the track and, of course, the runoff areas as well. Does that sort of throw the car offline? Doesn't appear to, John.
It deviates the car slightly. You're losing hundredths of seconds, and all those hundredths add up into tenths, and tenths into seconds. And by driving a clean lap, aggressively in controlled form, will be quicker than sliding around as we've seen Gerhard.
Let's look at the monitor. Time coming up, 1:23.781. He has gone quicker. Berger has clipped 0.3 of a second of yesterday's time. So Senna will really have his work cut out now. This is Nannini. Nannini in the new style Benetton. And this is Senna. Senna now trying to recapture the pole, going on to his qualifying lap now.
Yeah, he came onto the pit straight. He came on quite slowly, but doing so, getting the power down and really trying to force the car, thrust the car out of that slow second gear chicane, and then maximize on the speed down through the Tamburello, coming into the Villeneuve curve, and then hard on the brakes into the Tossa curve. This second gear corner, getting the car in and trying, feeding the power in as quickly really as he can. You see the car squirreling a little bit on the track, a little bit too much of the 700 horsepower Honda have available for their drivers today. But look, he's good. You see, this is not going to be a particularly good lap. He's already using too much of the curb. He's been sliding a little bit in the Tossa, getting across the curb, sliding there in the Equa Minerale. Let's see, look, again.
Quite wide there, Johnny. He's up on the curb.
Every corner he's been on so far, he's overdriven the car. He's trying, at this point, too hard. I know it's easy sitting here commentating on it to say that, but he needs to control what he's doing a little bit more. That's wasting time. He's losing time. He's abusing the tires, abusing the car, and actually going to go slightly slower than he would think he is capable of doing.
Yeah, coming towards the end of that lap now.
A bit tidier through that Ravazza corner. He got it back under control, but I think those 4 corners where he was sliding too much will pay in the lap time we're going to see just in about 2 seconds.
Yeah, we see him across the line. Just takes a couple of seconds to come up on the timing monitor. There it is, 1:24.079, exactly the same time as he did yesterday, to the 1,000th of a second. Absolutely amazing, but he is still in second place, albeit on the front row of the grid. So that's Ayrton Senna for you.
But he'll be driving now, this slowing down lap, he'll be thinking about it. What did I do wrong?
Oh, there's one off. Derek Warwick running away from the car, mainly because he wants to get into the spare. He stuck it in the sand, and Derek Warwick, I know he's a bit happier with the car after this morning's practice session and hoping to move up the grid, but that's not a happy sight. And now we join in car with Ivan Capelli. The Leighton House team had an absolutely horrible start to the season, but getting it together a bit better here. And while we just talk about that car, let's say get well soon to Ian Phillips, the team director. He's had a touch of meningitis, I believe. So Ian, if you're listening, let's hope you're back at the racetrack at Monaco.
Capelli coming down now to the second gear chicane just before the pit straight. Very tight left and right, difficult getting the power on. Third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear. You see his hand stays on the gear lever for those 3 gear changes. The car accelerates so quickly, it's not worth taking your hand off the gear lever. Sixth gear, flat out through Tamburello, getting up to 185, 190 miles an hour, coming down through the Villeneuve curve, and really you're just into the curve when you've got to get off the brakes.
More problems for Camel Lotus. Martin Donnelly in trouble. Can't see what's happened there.
Well, that looks like a mechanical failure, or electrical failure, something. Great shame, because Martin Donnelly has been going extremely well here in his 3rd Grand Prix for Lotus Lamborghini.
Here's a man who is sliding the car, Thierry Boutsen, hoping to get up at least onto the second row of the grid. This is Thierry on his 2nd qualifying run. Remember, Ayrton Senna still has a run to come.
Boutsen had some problems this morning, Andrew. He was complaining about brakes, and of course brakes are very important on the Imola circuit. You've got 3 or 4 places where you really have to get on the brakes heavily, so they've managed to cure that, and we're going to see what Boutsen, if he can make up for some of the lack of braking in the morning in this afternoon's time session. The session, of course, that really counts for the grid.
There's Boutsen. Boutsen goes fourth. Boutsen onto the second row of the grid with a 1:25.039. Thierry Boutsen has gone fourth. Now he's slowing down. And Senna again. Senna goes out for his 2nd run. Well, it's this time or never, John, and cars in the way too.
Well, he's got Cesaris in front of him, and he's got John Alesi behind him, but I don't think Alesi is going to be a problem, though he will try and hang in there and grab the slipstream as much as possible. Remember that Alesi's Ford engine, the V8 Ford engine, has got about 60 horsepower less than Senna's Honda engine, so he's going to try and maximize as much as he can on the slipstream the Honda is going to provide him with, but of course the power will tell. Going uphill into the double left-hander.
Yes, in that previous run you said that Senna was perhaps overdriving the car a little bit. Now it looks as if it's much smoother on this run.
Yes, I would say now you're seeing controlled force here being used. Senna appears not to be putting the energy into the car in the wrong way. The car now is being pushed out of the corners. It's positive rather than what we saw in the previous qualifying lap, what I would call negative driving. This is very positive.
Looks like a quick one. Just about 58 seconds under that bridge on our stopwatch, and we know that's going to be a quick one if he gets there that soon.
Anything under a minute at the bridge is very, very fast indeed. You know, it's much, much more settled. The car looks right. He looks totally in control of the situation, and I think we're going to see a very, very fast lap from Senna.
But Alesi's kept up remarkably well. Look at that. Alesi across, coming up on the timing screen now. Senna 1 minute 23.220. Senna snatches the pole from Gerhard Berger, the 44th pole in his career. Fantastic.
And he's going to be very happy, Ayrton Senna. That was a superb lap. I mean, really, as a driver watching that, it's a pleasure to see another driver drive a clean, positive, aggressive lap.
Well, Nigel Mansell, look into his eyes. He's still got a run to do. Can the Ferraris get at least onto the second row of the grid? They're in the third row at the moment.
Alan Prost on a run-in.
Well, there's Prost, that superb drive, of course, in Brazil. Only second drive Ferrari garnered a victory. What sort of times Alan Prost going to make? Prost coming towards the timing light now. There he goes, Prost. Not much improvement. Prost has improved. That's good enough for sixth spot. 25.179 to Alan Prost.
Nigel Mansell now, he's going to try and get a clean lap. He's had a lot of problems throughout the weekend, particularly with traffic, and one or two cars in particular have been a real pain. So let's hope Nigel can get a clean run, because basically I think he is quicker than Prost. Prost is a superb race driver, tactician, politician, linguist, but Nigel's a great racing driver, and he is fast.
Yes, they say Nigel's Italian hasn't improved much further than the spaghetti carbonara stage.
It's always a start, Andrew, but I think working in an Italian team with a driver who does speak the language fluently, such as Prost, must put Nigel at this stage at a disadvantage, especially since Prost has won a race and Nigel hasn't. So he wants very, very much indeed to reassert his position in the team. Last year, really, he was the unofficial #1. He eclipsed Berger, but right now Prost is doing to Mansell what Mansell did to Berger.
We just saw a shot of all the vines which are around here. Now he's coming up behind Terry Boutsen. Whoa,
oh,
off he goes.
Oh dear, I mean, the bottom of that car got a right hiding. I mean, really, I'm not quite sure if Boutsen did get in his way. He seemed to be on a part of the track that did interfere with Nigel. He was wanting to get out of that corner quickly, but it seemed to affect Nigel. He's missed a gear, the electronic gear change. He's got to go down through the gears. He can't select the gear he wants, and of course, he's spoiled that lap. He's going to have to now cruise back and try and start another lap and hopefully try and improve upon the time he's just had from Friday.
Yeah, well, in fact, this is his second run, John. His first run, he moved up to fifth spot, so he remains in fifth at the moment, but the third row of the grid is not what the Ferrari fans, the Tifosi, want this time. We see it again.
He clipped the curb on the inside of the right-hand part of the chicane. I'm not so much sure if Boutsen, he was in the wrong place at the wrong time, but Nigel looked like he was sort of slightly out of control before he got there, and of course, going across the curb like that, all four wheels were right off the ground. The bottom of the car was scraping along the ground. That car will need some carbon fiber surgery tonight, that's for sure.
Well, Mansell still going. Probably a little angry under that Union Jack crash helmet. Sparks flying out.
Oh, dear me.
Straight onto the chicane.
There's a major misjudgment. He came down, didn't get his braking right, and did the right thing, of course. He went across that little pathway that has been worn by other cars doing the same thing. But, of course, that lap will not be allowed. He took a shortcut, so this lap will not count, no matter what the time is.
How the timekeepers know that? Report presumably from the marshal's post.
Well, the marshal's post, of course, the circuit is covered in cameras, so they will be able to monitor exactly what has taken place. And this lap will be deleted from Mansell's total of practice laps. But that just gives you an indication as to how hard Nigel was trying, and he left his braking ever so late, made the right decision not to attempt the chicane, because he would have certainly damaged the car. He went across the grass, but of course that lap's been wasted. And the tyres, the qualifying tyres, that means they've got one life less than they would have had he not made that misjudgment.
Just off screen, John, we've seen that Riccardo Patresi's gone a fraction faster, but stays in third spot.
Here we go. He chose to go straight on really quite early at that situation. He knew he was never going to get round there. So really frustrating day for Nigel Mansell and Ferrari, and I think that he is capable of getting into the 24s, but he's been denied it.
Just the closing minutes of practice now. We go in car with Nelson Piquet. Just remind us of those gear change points, John.
Yes, third gear, changing into fourth gear, holding fourth gear on the second part of the Ravazza, snatching fifth, holding fifth all the way down to the first right, left of the Marlborough chicane, then hard on the brakes, down to second gear in a 6-speed gearbox. Left, right, down on the power, hands flurrying up to third gear, fourth gear, fifth gear. The gear changes are so quick, it's not really worth taking your hand off the wheel.
Piquet 25.7, that's 8th spot for him. Gerhard Berger back on the track for his second qualifying run, and he will be working really hard to try and recapture the pole. Can he do it? Coming towards the end of this lap, in fact.
Well, he was sliding a lot coming onto the straight out of the Ravazza corner at start, for whether the tyres really have had the performance left in them after that hard run.
24.2, no quicker. Gerhard Berger has to be content with second spot. Okay, the checkered flag coming out, and that is the end of the session. Ayrton Senna takes his 44th career pole. Let's look at the times then. Senna and Berger on the front row of the grid. On row 2, it's all Williams, Patrese and Boutsen. On row 3, Mansell and Prost, all Ferrari. Then Jean Alesi, Nelson Piquet, Nannini and Warwick round out the top 10. Martin Donnelly, a great 11th. Mauricio Gugelmin right up to 12th spot. Bernard is 13th. Stefano Modena 14th. Suzuki 15th. Then it's Alio in 16th spot, to Cesaris 17th, and another Italian, Capelli 18th. In 19th spot it's Nakajima, 20th is Lorini, and then Emanuele Pirro. Oliver Gruillard, Gregor Foytet, Roberto Moreno, JJ Leto and Paolo Barilla complete the qualifying top 26. Let's look at the people that haven't made the cut. Alex Caffey, Michele Alboreto and sadly David Brabham. And what a terrible day for the Footwork Arrows team.
Well, that's it for day 2. Day 3 features live, uninterrupted coverage of the race itself. Along with that, we'll be bringing you an exclusive interview with Gerhard Berger and one with triple world champion Sir Jack Brabham. So make a date to join us at 1 o'clock UK time, 2 o'clock in Central Europe for our build-up to the big race.
Von den German Open aus Hamburg.